Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Stardom. I got a very special guest, Darren Dowler, with me today. Darren, how are you this morning?
If I was any better, I would be you. That's how good I'm doing.
Well, maybe we could change that. the day just started, so
Yeah.
okay. So, like I said, I do a little research on the people before, so I know you started out as a towel guy in a hotel, and you started doing some random music gigs, and you're like 12, 13, going into pubs and stuff, and
Yeah. I was working for $2.36 an hour, carrying towels to maids in a hotel. And at that point, I was about 12 and a half, 13 years old. And this guy came to me, and he happened to have met my mother at the hotel where I worked, and said, "Hey, your mom says you play acoustic guitar and sing." And I'd never sung in front of people before. So I was like, "Well, yeah, a little bit." And I was real nervous, a little kid talking to a grown man. I was like, "Oh," and he's like, "Well, I'd like you to play at my pub." And I said, "No, I could never do that. That's scary." And he goes, "Well, I'll give you $50 for 4 hours." I said, I'm ready. Let's go." I took the job so fast, my head spun.
I think my first job was I think I worked at an auction down the road from my house. I was like 13, and they paid me $10 and let me have whatever concession stand food I wanted, as long as I helped them move stuff around.
That's a pretty good deal.
Man, it was all right. I mean, I enjoyed just looking at all the cool stuff
and eating hot dogs.
Yeah,
I've been all over that.
Yeah. So I know you got into karate for a while, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And was that in high school or was it after high school?
That was starting at about 14 through high school, and then through pretty seriously until I was about 21, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I was actually because I really wasn't going to pursue a music career, I was actually training to become a professional fighter. And,
oh wow!
Yeah, and so by the time I was about 17, I think I was already doing amateur bouts and things like that. Getting my head beat in for nothing. But it was really a great time of my life. I really enjoyed it, and I was in it for the sport. I wasn't the guy who was in the bar picking fights with people. That wasn't me at all. I loved the sport of it, and I've always loved competition since I was a little kid. And so I got real serious, and then it was really a blessing to me, because for the next 10 years, while I was trying to get going in my career and things like that, I moved up to Connecticut and New York, and I was trying to learn to act and to sing, to dance, and do all this stuff. It was really interesting. It was almost like a godsend, because I ended up having private clients that would pay me pretty well to teach them the art, because I was such a multi-styled artist that I started developing my own style. And I don't even know how it happened. Somebody heard about it, and some guy came to me. I'll tell you what sets it off, though. There was this guy who was a professional boxer, and he was a really neat guy. He was a great boxer. I used to love to go watch his fights. He actually came to me and trained with me for a while, because he wanted to add some different techniques to his boxing. And he paid me really well. And I was like, "Oh, this is great." So for a while, I was teaching people privately or small groups in my backyard kind of thing, So yeah, supplementing income, as they say.
So it's fair to say you're a man of many talents, correct? You've learned a lot of things.
I'm a survivor, I think I would say. I learned to survive. I learned to do things when other things weren't working out, because the music industry is a hard business.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. I've listened to quite a bit of your stuff for the last week, so yeah.
Where did you find out about the karate and stuff? You do your homework. I don't even know where they're
at. You have a couple podcasts that you've done, and then there's some random YouTube stuff. Like I said, I do my research.
That's great. Hey, you're good at it.
So I picked hidden talents for the topic today. So the stories that I'm going to read you, some of them are off the wall funny. Some of them are like, oh, okay.
I'm looking forward to the okay one.
And after watching Rock and Roll the movie, I like your sense of humor, so I think this is going to go really well.
Okay.
So I'll start off with the first one. When I was a kid, I used to be able to speak in two distinctly different pitches at the same time. I called it my alien voice. Now, when I try to do it, I just sound like the pimple teenager from Simpsons.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
I could never, huh?
You could actually speak in two pitches at once.
Not me. These are stories people post.
Oh, I get it. Okay, I didn't wow. So what do I do now?
You just comment if you got similar stories. That's what we do. This is all we do.
Well, I think that honestly, what that guy or whoever that was talking about, he was actually used to getting kicked in the crotch. When you get kicked in the crotch, you can speak in three different pitches.
When I was 15, I worked at Chuck E. Cheese. And whenever I'd wear the mouse, you'd be surprised how many kids would kick you in the crotch. Oh, my God.
I always wondered how they did a like, what is the job application to do that job? You know what I mean? So, can you be in total darkness for 8 hours? Smoking you in your testicles.
Well, hey, you can dance ridiculously and nobody knows who you are. It's fine, right?
Oh, I think it's great, man. Hey, as a matter of fact, if things don't go well, I might go look up that job. That way nobody will know who I am.
Okay, this next one I thought was pretty crazy. I've known how to unicycle extremely well since I was 6. No one knows this, but I'm really good at it.
Wow. You know, it's funny. I've always seen people unicycling, and I've never tried it myself. But it looks fun. I will say that. But I know a lot of guys who do that because they're juggling comedians. Because with a lot of the gigs I do, there'll be opening acts or side acts, or sometimes fairs. You'll see this stuff, and I watch these guys ride these things. And the most interesting one I ever saw was a guy. I still don't know how he does it because, you know, you got to use your feet to control the pressure and the tempo and all that stuff so you don't tip over. But he would ride a unicycle. I still don't know how he did it. He would jump up on the side curtain and grab the side curtain, pull himself off the unicycle, and then he'd hang there for a second. The unicycle would stay upright somehow. He'd drop back down on the unicycle and go from hitting himself in the crotch. And he'd pedal on, man. It was an amazing thing.
That is crazy.
I never saw anything like that before.
That's great. I'm decent at tightrope.
Are you really?
I'm not great at it, but I'm decent at it.
Another thing I would have never thought to try, but now when you do it, do you have the stick and all that, or just your hands? And
just my hands. So in elementary school, I used to like climb the monkey bars, but I wouldn't walk across the monkey bars. I'd walk across the edges, and then I realized I was pretty good at balance, so I'd start doing it on thinner things. And I mean, all the way through high school, I did. I haven't done it in years, but.
Yeah, that's so cool though. I don't know if I could do that. I always wondered about that. I mean, I got pretty good balance, I guess, but that just looks really hard. And does it hurt the feet? Like it looks like it hurts the feet?
Yes. I think the last time I did it, I was in Lawrence, Kansas. Are you familiar with Lawrence yet?
Mm-hmm. A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of the college crowd out there is very diverse. And occasionally you'd see people playing lair out in the in parks and stuff.
Yeah. And
they would do stuff like they'd do like fights on tightrope and stuff like that. That was probably 10 years ago that I'd do that randomly, but
that's amazing. That's an interesting skill to have. I mean, does that impress chicks, a talent like that? Can you be like,
not really,
you jump up on a wire and hey, how you doing?
No. Usually they just walk away at that point.
Right? Yeah, this guy's on the tightrope. Get out of here. And not to mention, he has no pants on. Let's go.
Okay, next up. I have polyphonic belches like a Tuvaluan throat singer. I let one rip in choir once, and the director turned to me and said that was a full 7th chord, but that doesn't make it any less disgusting.
Oh, that is funny. You know what? This person actually does have this talent. I don't want to meet them.
What is, because I don't know, are you familiar with Tuvan? Is it Tuvan? Is that how you pronounce it, or do you know?
I do not know what that is. Even being in the music industry, I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah. It's beyond me. I have no clue. I can't. Go ahead.
True fan. I'm trying to think. What is that? It makes me want to look it up. I think I do. TUVAN.
Yeah.
Let's see. Tuvans are Turkic indigenous people of Siberia who live in Russia. They speak Tuvan. Okay, so he's a polyphonic Turk. When he belches, that's interesting.
Yeah.
He's gone, Tuvan. Okay, we know now.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
I can't sing at all. You talked about this before too. You were talking about X Scratch death metal.
Yeah. That's
I love death metal. I'm not familiar with that style, but I do like heavy metal.
Death metal. Well, that stuff is the hardest of the hard of the hard. It actually sounds like every time I hear it, I've only heard it a couple of times. You can't really find it. But I mean, imagine the hardest death metal you've ever heard. And then you mix in, it really truly sounds like you're in hell. And the devil himself is putting on a rock concert with all his demons around him, chanting at the same time. But the interesting thing is, with that stuff, they add sound effects to it that really does sound like the pits of hell. And I know this fits into a comedy podcast really well, so I'm glad I went into depth on this. That's what that X Scratch, and I've only heard that term maybe once or twice myself, but I heard this stuff one day, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine how the singers do it when they're not really singers; they're screamers." But the way they scream that stuff and that's got to just trash your voice.
I know that they use there's a gel that they use before they do songs and shows that kind of coats their throat so it doesn't dry out.
Is there really?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to look that up. That would be amazing to know about.
Yeah, I knew a few friends that played locally, that weren't big, but they would use that stuff. I don't even know what it's called. But yeah, I mean, I don't know why, but when I was like 19, 20, I had like this weird punk phase. And I really got into heavy metal. I had piercings and all that stupid stuff, and I grew out of it. Once I had a kid, but the metal music just kind of stuck with me. I find it fascinating that somebody can create music by screaming.
Yeah, but they do it, and there's some really good ones out there. Like I love. You get what I call them pop metal bands. They're kind of a mixture of radio rock and metal and screaming. Like,
yes,
perfect example that might be Linkin Park, maybe.
Yeah,
where he gets into that screaming thing, but they have that kind of like almost commercial rock vibe going at the same time.
Yes,
it's extremely cool band. And but I mean that's interesting that you say that, because there's so many guys who are doing it these days. And I was, what's funny is I've been a singer since I was a little kid, because it runs in the family. And of course, I think it's natural to want to do what you can't do. I think we all do that. And so when I was growing up, I was the guy with the somewhat pretty voice, the blues voice, and, doing that kind of stuff. But then that's right when heavy metal and stuff was just coming into play. And I couldn't do that stuff because I don't have that rough screaming kind of voice. Now, I have learned over the years that I can do it, but it took me 30 years to figure out how to do it. Because it's either your natural tone or it's not,
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you know, but I do impressions as well.
Yes, like I said, I do my research.
And one of them that I do a bunch of rock and roll, like Ozzy Osbourne. I do AC/DC, but it took me years. But that's why when you said that gel stuff, I was like, maybe at the beginning of my impression segment, I could do some of that gel stuff if it's really good.
Yeah, again, I'm not sure what it's called, but I'm sure you can look it up. It's some sort of like a spray gel.
That's awesome. I'm going to definitely look into that. Yeah. But yeah, I'm the same way, man. I can't believe that people make music out of that. And I'll be honest with you, some of it I hear on the radio is absolutely not music. It's more like hell sound effects. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't like the metal where all the noise clashes, and then so you have all this clashing, and then like somebody screaming. I like it to break up a little bit and have different tones. Maybe the chorus be different. The breakdowns. I love breakdowns. But again, it has to be distinct, and you have to be able to hear the noises and the music.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, there's some of them out there that just sound like they're herding cats.
For example, Guar. Have you heard of Guar?
Uh-uh.
They're really popular. But they're not. They don't sound good, but they put on a great live show. And they wear like these. They wear these costumes, these like demon costumes.
Oh, I see them. Yeah, that's
wild. Super popular, huge like following. But they actually started out as a college project where they were to create a music that didn't sound good, but they could create a following.
That is interesting. And it worked. It obviously worked.
Yeah, it actually stands for "Gosh, what an awful racket."
That's awesome. Oh, Gwar, gosh, what an awful racket. That's what I've been doing wrong all these times. I should have started sounding bad. What am I saying? Some of these songs, I put out a couple of songs I listen to, and I go, oh, that's bad.
Yeah. How many? So between in all your music career, how many albums would you say you've released? I'm curious. Wow. Or do you even know?
That's an actually interesting question. So for me personally, now I've been on dozens of albums because with all the groups that I sang with, I kind of made a career for 20 or 25 years of being the replacement singer for famous bands. My range and my ability to keep the sound somewhat similar to what the original singer was, but still do my own thing. It was kind of a thing. I fell into this niche, which, I feel very blessed. Don't get me wrong, because I made a great living, playing music. If you can make money playing music, you're kind of winning the game in any form of way. So hard. And, but interestingly enough, albums of my own, I've only released because I'm working on my dream album right now, songs that I've been working to record for 25 years. I probably released, let's see, maybe 4 of my own. That's it, because I've been so busy. And like for instance, I was in this one group that, which I still find it funny that I was in the group. Don't get me wrong, I love the group. They're amazing, and they've got awards you can't even imagine. But they're a harmony group from way back in the 50s and 60s called the Lettermen. They were the first group that I kind of fell into. And matter of fact, I got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame from being in that band. You can imagine.
I knew that.
Yeah, you are good at your homework. And I feel bad. I probably shouldn't say this stuff so you can bring it up, right?
It doesn't matter. It's fine.
But it was so interesting because I released over 10 albums with those guys. It was an album a year kind of thing, sometimes 2. I think we did about 15 albums. And then I was with all these other bands that I did. I was so busy doing their stuff and getting ready for trips. I mean, I traveled 250 days a year. And so I really didn't have the time to sit down and record stuff the way I wanted to record it. I even did a country album, which ironically enough, I'm not a country artist, but I can sing country because my whole family is from the country. And I'm a big Garth Brooks and Travis Tritt fan, And
did you go to the show?
No, I didn't. I don't. You know what? I'm so used to being in front of crowds that when I'm home, I'm home. I don't want to be in a crowd. I don't like being in crowds of people.
That makes sense. That makes total sense.
And especially these days, because I've got a new baby and I don't want to bring anything home.
Congrats.
With all the virus lie, I call it the virus lie. Yeah. So
that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, right. I released this country album that really was a great album. I mean, I was surprised when we got it done. I was like, wow, this is a good album. I mean, I only recorded it because I wrote these 10 country songs and I had nothing to do with them. I don't know what to do. So my father-in-law says, why don't we record them? He goes, I'll produce it. I'll pay for it. You go in and record those songs. Let's see what we can do. So we did. And now we're just shopping those songs for movies and shopping them for different artists. Like I'd love to have Travis Tritt pick up one of those songs or something.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And, but yeah, it's a great album. And it's probably outsold all my other albums at this point. And which is funny because I'm not really a country artist. But yeah, so to answer your question, I've only released 3 or 4 of my own. And I think that was 1 country album and one acoustic album. I call it all acoustic. And then there was one album, two Christmas albums. So 4. Yeah, I guess.
Oh wow, yeah. See, and then when I was doing my research on you, I never could tell because I knew you were in a lot of stuff, but I didn't know how much you personally did. So that's why I asked that.
Well, I forgot about Rock and Roll the Movie. I did write all the songs for that. So I guess that's.
So I'm guessing there's a soundtrack. I'm sure for that.
I didn't release it, but there is a soundtrack. Yeah, and we're thinking about releasing it now. Rock and Roll the Movie it's a strange little movie. The first couple of years it was up on the system. It did well. You know, I mean, you got 2 billion people on the internet. Somebody's going to find your movie.
Yeah.
But what's funny is it's just now starting to take off. It's one of those sleeper movies. I guess that's the term. They call them a sleeper, where it sits around for a while. But Fox just picked it up for Tubi, and which blew my mind. I was like, really? Tubi's picked up Rock and Roll movie? And the distributor said, yeah. He goes, I couldn't believe it either, but he requested the movie. And I was like, well, go for it.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. Movies. I love movies.
Yeah, you said that as acting was kind of a big, once you got into it, you really enjoyed it. Like,
I'm one of those guys, when I find something I like, I really dive in heavy, you know. So I studied acting for like 7 years, something like that, and studied with some incredible instructors and things like that. And so like as with other things I've done, 25-30 years ago, from day one I started developing my own style, because some of the stuff teachers were given wasn't working, and then some stuff was. So I was taking all the stuff that did work and all the stuff that made real sense. It wasn't just a thing to keep you in class to pay money. And I kept notes for 20 years or so on the stuff that works. So then I started developing my own. So I actually teach. I don't even know if you know that. But as a matter of fact, I've got some Kansas City students. I teach over online. I teach about 10 or 15 people max at a time. And I've been teaching acting since 1990 nonstop. And it's just something it's kind of my walk into my office and get away and enjoy. And I've got 2 or 3 Kansas City students, New Jersey, Florida, England. So yeah, if somebody wants to learn to act, they can contact me, and we'll set up sessions, and we literally work like we're doing right now. Yeah, and it works out really good. So.
I remember I heard you saying that you actually learned from going to random classes in New York, right?
Yeah.
They would do like their own little sessions on the weekends or whatever from the college.
Almost all of the real performing arts schools, or real, New York, to me, New York is where it's at if you want to learn, because they really teach you. I mean, I went to 50 acting classes in LA when I got there, hoping to find one that I felt I could learn from. Never really found one, because they all did the same thing. It'd be a teacher in the audience with a clipboard going, come back next week and get a little deeper into the character. That's all they would tell you. And you'd be like, I just spent $75 for that? And the same thing. And in LA, we're in New York, acting, they teach acting to teach acting, because they've got Broadway there, they've got television studios. In LA, I found, not everybody, of course, but most of the teachers I ran into just teach acting to make a little extra money on the side. Casting directors who've never acted a day in their lives have these acting courses. And I'm like, you've never acted. How are you teaching acting? And these poor actors will pay the $75 to be seen by the casting director. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So do you think some of these people are do it for a hustle?
Absolutely.
Or do you think, yeah.
I'd say 75% of the people you see teaching it, if they're not with a university or they're not in we'll call it an established business, it's kind of a hustle, yeah. And I know some of those people personally, and I don't approve of what they're doing, but
yeah.
But you were right about the when I went to New York, I was 17. I packed my car, went to New York, had no money. I mean, nothing. I was eating knishes and hot dogs on the street because they were 75 cents a piece. And what happened was, I found that almost all the legit acting coaches would give either a one-day or a weekend seminar. And the deal was, they would give that seminar in order to get you to go sign up for their school. It was like a sales ploy. But what I found about acting coaches is that most of them would teach you 50 to 75% of their good stuff in that seminar. So if you took that 50 to 75% of their good stuff, the stuff that really works for them, because that's their hook to get you to spend $2,500 for the year to go to their school. And so what I did is I've always been a note taker guy. So I'll be there and I'll be taking notes, really, I learned to take really good, fast notes. And so I'd take notes of the acting coach's thing. And it was amazing because after about 2 or 3 years, I had this pad full of notes, but it was all legit techniques that really work in the acting world. So I started putting that into my own practice, and now I'm actually writing a book called The Actor Inside You, and I'm probably going to release that mid next year.
That's awesome. I wish I took notes. I'm a supervisor at Costco. Are you familiar with Costco?
Oh yeah, I love that place.
And man, sometimes they'll give you a list of things to do, but they'll do it when there's like 300 people in the building and they're all shopping and you're getting your butt kicked. And they're like, "Go do that. Make sure you get this done today. Make sure you get this done." And I'm just like, "All right, I gotta go help this guy."
Oh my gosh,
And then I'll forget. Yeah.
You must have tolerance, like, I mean, to be able to deal with that massive amount of people and all those different duties at once.
I don't. I'm a very mellow person. I don't let things stress me out. So like, no matter how busy we are, no matter. But at the end of the day, I'm going home and I'm going to be with my family, and I don't care. You know.
Yeah. Plus, it's a good company. From everybody I've talked to that works there, it's a good company. They have good retirement. They treat you good.
Oh yeah.
And
I've been there.
They pay pretty good too.
Oh, they're great. Yeah, and I'm as a supervisor, they pay pretty well. But I've been doing it for 6 years, and I love it. So,
well, if we get shut down again, I might come see you for a job because there's no. I go back on the road September 5th for a couple of weeks, and then I go back out September 25th. But if those gigs get canceled after a year and a half off, I'll be like, "Hey, you guys hiring?"
Well, there's 5 of them, so it wouldn't be that hard. At least around here. Okay, so you mentioned hot dogs. This next one says I can eat 27 hot dogs in 45 minutes.
Ooh. Well, I think I could do that too, as long as every 7 minutes I threw up. All right,
just pause. I'll send you a recording and just pause it every couple of you.
You know, it's funny.
I could do that.
I'd like to try that sometime. I mean, I really wouldn't, but I love hot dogs. Hot dogs and sausage sandwiches. I grew up, like I said, when I went to New York, that's what I ate for a year, honestly, and that's no lie because I couldn't afford anything else. I mean, this is a true story. So I'm in New York, and I just gotten there. I'm 17 years old. I've got this place to stay, but every place is $1,000 a month if you're sharing with 4 people in New York.
Wow.
And so I mean, everybody's starving. So I asked some other actors on some auditions because I started auditioning almost the day I got there. And I was like, I want to do this. I wanted to get into theater. I wanted to learn something I couldn't do, which was like acting on stage and theater because I did it in high school. I didn't know what I was doing. And but I wanted to get good at it. So I started eating hot dogs, and this is a true story. So help me God. So I asked some other actors. I said, "How are you doing this up here?" I said, I'm not old enough to work in a bar. I said, and they won't hire me in a restaurant because you have to have 3 years experience in a New York restaurant to be able to wait tables in a restaurant. Otherwise you'd be busting tables for, $4 an hour or something. And I had multiple actors tell me they ate dog food. And I went, what? He goes, yeah, man, for 42 cents, you get a can of dog food, which is about 3 or 4 meals. He goes, and the way they've got it engineered, it's a complete meal. Everything you need for the day is in there. So there were actors that were so hard up in New York City, they were eating dog food. So that makes hot dog look like filet mignon, if you ask me.
No joke. That's interesting because at least in New York, a good New York hot dog is a soubrette, though. I do enjoy soubrettes.
Is that the name of a hot dog?
Yeah, it's a type of hot dog. It's called a soubrette.
Yeah, I'm not familiar.
I wasn't really familiar with it until I got with my wife, and her mom's from New York, and soubrettes. I'm trying to think. There's a think of them.
Hey, New Yorkers are serious about their hot dogs. I'll tell you that. I think you froze up on me there.
Yeah, you did too. Sorry. It's probably the weather. I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah. They really are. They're serious about hot dogs. I mean, I remember I was standing on the. New Yorkers aren't. They're not afraid to just say what's on their mind. Let's just say that. And I was like my first day or so out there getting a hot dog, and it's obvious I was the new kid in town. Long hair, tan. I came from Florida, so I was tan. And I had long hair, and I was a surfer. I really fit in. And I got there and I was eating and I got my first hot dog, or maybe first couple, I don't know. And I was starting to put ketchup on my hot dog. And this New Yorker just goes, "What the hell are you doing?" What? He goes, "Nobody puts ketchup on a real hot dog. What's wrong with you? It's mustard, man. You put mustard on a freaking hot dog." And I was like, these people are intense, man. They're yelling at me.
I do agree with him though. I don't put ketchup on my hot dog. I put mustard.
You know, and I know that's and probably I should just try that sometime. I don't think I ever have, but I'm that guy. I like mustard, ketchup, slaw, and then chili on my hot dogs. I mean, I eat hot dogs that would make most people just go, "What is he doing?"
My wife likes to do chili on cinnamon rolls.
Oh my gosh, that's disgusting.
I was like, I've never heard of that. She swears it's popular, but I've never heard of it.
Where did she learn of that? I've never even
apparently it's a Nebraskan thing. I don't know. She looks on TikToks and all these other things, and it tastes like you're eating chili on a cinnamon roll. It doesn't, it's not terrible. It's not something I would normally do, but it's different.
You take a girl out for the first date and just a bottle of wine there, and you're like, "Hi, I have something special for you tonight. We're going to have chili on cinnamon rolls."
I'm actually kind of curious what the response would be.
We should have done that on the show. We should have had some chili and cinnamon rolls and then tasted them and then talked about it.
We'll do another show. Okay. Next up, I can fit $2 in change in my nose.
Wow. I could fit $2 in change in my nose. That could be like maybe the most expensive sneeze in history. Can you imagine? You should be nailing people with quarters.
I feel like that'd be too wide. Where are they throwing, 4 rolls of pennies in there, or?
Hey, but that'd be a good way to get some stuff free, right? You go up to the counter, $50 worth of stuff, and they say, "Okay, that'll be $50," and you start pulling money out of your nose. They're like, "Just go,
just get it, just get out of here, man. It's fun. Take it, get out of here."
That's awesome. Wow.
I don't know. Yeah, like how would you like even realize that was a talent you had?
I don't know. That falls into a category all its own, I think. I mean, all the weird stuff I've heard over the years, that's definitely up there with the best.
Have you seen any like really weird talents that people had? Is there something that just stuck out to you that was like, man, I've never seen that before?
Yeah, and I still don't know how he did it, but there was a magician that did a show with me one time, and I still, I actually, when I was a kid, we had a famous magic store in Daytona Beach. I mean, magicians all over the world know about this magic store because there weren't that many magic stores, but this was a legit magic store with all the tricks, and if you paid the money, you could go in and the guy would teach you the trick, how to do it. And so I did that for a while thinking I'm going to get good at magic, and I was terrible. I'm horrible at it. So I gave up on it. I'm just not, it's a talent. It really is a talent. Mm-hmm. And but this one magician did a show, and his thing was piercing himself. And it's the most, still to this day, it's the freakiest but yet most incredible thing I've ever seen. He would hold up his arm like this. I'm kidding you not. He'd take a knitting needle, something, I don't know, I think it looked like a knitting needle. I don't know what it was. And he would stick it through his arm. And then he would go through his finger. Then he would go through his nostril and out the top. He did one through the mouth, down through the chin. And I mean, you're right there. You're watching it, and you're like, it's got to be a trick, but how's he doing it? And just when you think it couldn't be any more fantastic, unbelievable, somewhat disgusting, interesting, and exciting, he takes one about this. You can't see what I'm doing, but it's about a 1.5 feet long, and takes a 1.5 feet needle, and he goes right through his gut, turns around, pulls it out his back. To this day, I do not understand how that guy did that trick, and if it was a trick or if he just has an ability. Maybe he spent years piercing himself and letting it heal, and then he would run things through those holes. I don't know.
That is, I don't know. I can handle cringy, but that's
It was cringy. That's a good word for it, cringy, because every time you get it, you're like, oh, ow.
I think the most random talent I have, I can do the alphabet backwards pretty quick, but that's about it.
Can you really? You can actually do it.
Yeah.
Give me like half of it.
ZYXWVUTSRQPONMLKJIHFBDCBA.
Wow. Now, did you just learn that one day, or is that something that comes very natural for you? Did you work on it?
In elementary school, I caught myself on the chalkboard. They had like the alphabet across the top.
Yeah.
And whenever I was bored listening to the teacher, I would just read it backwards. Eventually,
you're doing it all the time.
Yeah. And I just got into it. I mean, it's just something I can do. I mean, it's useless, but it's something I can do.
I remember I actually have a story with that. So I got pulled over one night in Florida. Was it Florida? Yeah, I think it was Florida, like many moons ago. What was it? Anyway, it doesn't matter. And so I got pulled over, and I honestly had been at the bar. You know, I wasn't drunk, but I had a couple of beers. You know, I'm one of those guys that don't drive if I'm drunk. I just don't do it.
Yeah.
And so cop pulled me over. You know, he got out and he pulled that on me, and he was like, "All right, well, if you haven't been drinking, why don't you say the alphabet backwards?" And he was a funny guy too. You know, he was one of those cool cops. You know how you run into the jerk cops and you run into the cool cops. So he's one of the cool cops. Mm-hmm. So I said, and I started, we'll see. Well, and I was like, bro, I can barely do this forward. I said, wait a minute, can you do it backward? And he went, no. And he goes, just take it easy. Get yourself home and take it easy. And he let me go, you know, because I wasn't.
That's good.
But
yeah.
But he understood that I never even thought about the alphabet. Who thinks of that?
I've always wondered why they threw that in there. Like, why is that a thing?
Yeah, I don't get that at all.
Are you familiar with the show Reno 911?
Yes.
I think there's a scene where she like tells the guy to do a plie and like hip, step, pivot.
I think I remember that.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And then I'm pretty sure he does it all. And then at the end, he admits that he's drunk or something like that.
He's like, I couldn't do this sober.
Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me when I got to New York, I'd only danced just because I did some plays and they taught me some dance moves. And I get there to my first real theater audition, and they're like, all right, everyone in first position. I have no clue what they're talking about. Now, I'm of course looking at all the pretty dance girls in the lineup, going, well, I wonder what first position is. And then they okay, everybody, we're going to start with a plie. And I was like, what is a plie, man? I don't even know what that
is. That's funny.
Oh man.
I joke about the plie all the time, just because whenever I'm joking with people about it, I mean, I don't even really know what it is. I just like to say it.
It's a double dip of the knees with a hand gesture.
All right.
Moving on.
I am genetically unable to get brain freezes. I could chug an entire Slurpee without consequence.
Wow. So somebody without a medulla oblongata, they have. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I hate brain freezes. I get them all the time.
I'm that guy too. I take 3. I just had one 2 nights ago. I take 3 sips of something icy and I'll get a brain freeze, and then I gotta do that to create pressure.
Yeah.
You're trying to literally push your skin away from your nerves in there, and it's like Of course, I think I was born with brain freeze, though. That's why I do. That's why I do it.
I am curious on the. I mean, it's a little off topic, but on Rock and Roll Movie, was that actually whiskey that you were drinking, or was that something else? Like in the
Oh, I wish it was whiskey. And if I wasn't doing 19 jobs, it might have been whiskey. No, that was just colored water, because that was, Rock and Roll the Movie was a product of love and passion. You know, something that I wrote. I wrote that movie 10 years before it got made, and I did literally, actually, if you saw the credits at the end, you realize I did just about everything on that movie. I mean, to the final mix, the sound, scoring it, directing it, producing it, acting in it, writing, I did it all. And because I had a certain, I tried at the beginning to get other people on board to help me with some of that stuff. But I hired this one producer to kind of run things while I was on set, and he pulled me aside and he goes, He goes, bro, you got to understand, this isn't a typical movie. This is a vision inside your head that other people can't see. He goes, you're going to have to do all of this. He goes, even when it comes to the edit too, because nobody's going to know how to edit this the way you want it. And he was absolutely right. Some of the people I brought in to do certain things, they just weren't on the mark. And so that was just good old fashioned. I think what do they call it? When you let the carbonation out of Coca-Cola, you kind of decarbonate it and then you pour it.
Yeah, it's flat.
But man, I'll tell you, some of those days, because that's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, because we had to film that whole movie in 2 weeks. And
you did that whole thing in 2 weeks?
Yeah, and it's a big movie. A lot of people don't realize it. I mean, normally when you see an independent film, you see 2 locations, you see 5 or 6 actors. We had 16, 17 locations, 30 actors, a crew of 20. You name it, we had it. Full light truck, full everything. And so it was a really big job. And we were on set 16 hours a day. I've never done that before for 2 weeks. And I'll tell you what, it took me, I'm going to venture to say 4 to 6 months to completely recover. I mean, I was having the time of my life. I couldn't wait to get up the next day. But after 2 weeks of 3 and 4 hours of sleep a night, your body shuts down on you.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That actor Billy David, his name's David, but you kept calling him Billy David. He was funny. He was a good guy. It seems like he was a good guy.
He was so talented. When we cast that movie, my wife, by the way, is the one who cast. She was the casting director along with a couple other girls on that movie.
Okay.
I had a whole casting crew, and my wife is very good. She's she can really spot talent. And I knew that from first meeting her, because she would call things. She would see a new actor and go, "Oh, he's going to be big." And every time she said that, it was true. It happened. And 2 of the ones I can remember, Hugh Jackman was one of those. As soon as she saw him, oh, this guy's going to be big. Chris Hemsworth was the other one. She saw Chris Hemsworth in that tiny little part he did in Star Trek, and she goes, "This guy's going to be huge." She just has an ability. So usually with a movie like that, and I've done movies to prove this right, you don't usually get the best talent. But every actor in that movie I thought was superb. I don't think I could have asked for a better cast. We took time, though. We saw a couple thousand people to find those actors. When you do an acting breakdown, you get 2,500 responses within 20 minutes. So you got to learn how to filter and how to find out who's real, who's not. Because you can't, by the time you're done, 10, 15,000 people have submitted. As a matter of fact, I'm casting a short film here in Kansas City right now. And it's really nice because where I normally get 5, 6, 7,000 applicants, I've had maybe 150 here, from the Midwest.
Totally different.
It's great, man, because I can actually give each one of them some time and look at what they do. And I really appreciate talent. I love to watch people do what they do. And that's one of the reasons I teach acting, actually, because I like to help people reach those goals. And there's going to be a lot of production work coming to Kansas City before you know it. It's coming fast. This whole area of the country is going to be full of production within 2 years. So I'm telling these actors, if you really want to do this, you want to take it seriously, study with me, because none of you are ready. Very few have I met. I've seen 150 reels. Not one of them are ready to walk on a set yet. Don't get me wrong. They're extremely talented. And you've got an amazingly talented group of people in Kansas City. That's one of the things that impressed me. Some of your theater actors are the best I've ever seen. I mean, they're just amazing. And but they do need some work before walking on a set, because it's a whole different animal. It really is. You got a 6K camera right in your face. It doesn't miss anything. You know what I mean? It knows if you're not real, if you're not ready for the role. It knows.
Oh, of course. I knew that we were kind of growing here. There's a lot of people that have been coming from the coasts. For some reason, Kansas City is very popular. I know the Johnson County area is pretty well known around the U.S. for just as a county in its own, being such a nice place to live. Yeah,
it is. When I did some research one time, Johnson County, as a matter of fact, 2 years in a row, or maybe even 3 years in a row, Overland Park was the #1 place to move in the United States. And that must have caught on, because I know Californians who are buying 10 houses right now. They're buying 10 houses at a time here. We just bought our house about a year ago, and I've never seen anything like it. You have to pay, I have another friend just bought a house. He had to pay $50,000 over asking to secure the house, because so many people are looking for houses right now.
Yep, that's insane.
So my place would be worth an extra $50K right now. It's just like, wow, that's amazing.
And the value's gone. Like I live in a townhouse out by. Are you familiar with the Legends area?
Yeah, I am.
I live out by the Legends, the Speedway. And I bought mine, and within 2 years of living here, not even with the stuff that I've done to change it, the property value has gone up like 40,000.
Unbelievable.
In 2 years. So I'm already profiting, and I haven't really done anything.
So you can stay there a few years, and then you could sell. I mean, if you ever want to, you could sell that place and get yourself into a place worth twice as much.
I will eventually. I'd like to have a little bit of land.
Nothing wrong with the townhouse, so it's nice to have everybody do all your maintenance and your lawn and all that stuff. I had the joy of doing my lawn work yesterday.
Oh, in the 98-degree weather.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy. My grass was getting out of hand though, but I have to admit, if I were to be honest, I've been renting for the last 25, 30 years because LA.
Oh, you moved around so much, right?
Yeah, and you can't buy a house in LA. A cheapest house in my neighborhood in LA, and we're talking a knockdown house, a little piece of crap built in 1948, $1.2 million. That's the cheapest thing in my neighborhood. Now to get into a good house, you're looking at $2 million.
That's insane.
It's crazy, and that's why that was a major factor in moving because it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't even like California beaches. Never have. I like Florida beaches. And then the crazies, and we're living in Santa Monica where your average house is $2 million, and the even above that. I mean, I know people with $4 and $5 million houses, and because the mayor and that attitude out there are just so, oh, we have to do whatever. I mean, they just don't care. So you got this neighborhood people have worked their entire lives to get into, and then this guy goes, oh, let the homeless set up where they want. So yeah, I got nothing against homeless people. I help them all the time. I'm the stupid guy that goes and gets hamburgers and brings them to the homeless, and they look at me like, "Hey, don't let them see you give me food. They won't give me money." You said that more than a dozen times, and but I mean, it got to the point where I couldn't allow my wife and daughter to go to the grocery store because the homeless guys would follow them to their cars and scare them. And imagine a grocery store. You can imagine how big a grocery store is in LA, right? So imagine a square block. It's kind of like a Costco. It's on that square block, Imagine so many tents that there's not one open area around that entire block because it's tent to tent to tent to tent to tent. That's how many there were in our neighborhood because the mayor just opened his arms and said, let the poor folks live. So then everybody who couldn't afford $4,000 a month rent got a tent and started living on the street. True. I know guys who just decided I'm not paying these rents anymore. I'm just going to live in a tent on the street and I'll shower on the beach.
That's great because I was actually interviewing. Well, I say interviewing. I don't interview people. I talk. What we're doing now. Larry Hankin. Are you familiar with him?
That name sounds familiar.
He's a taxi driver in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. He's on Friends and Seinfeld. He's the junkyard owner in Breaking Bad.
Oh yes, I do know who you're talking about. Yeah, he's great. I love him.
Yeah, he played in a Hello Landlord or Hey Landlord, the black and white TV series back in the day. And he lives in Venice, and he said there's like a 2-mile stretch of just tents.
It is, and Venice is another place. The property value is off the charts in Venice, but you can't really get what your house is worth because nobody wants to live in that mess. It's a mess. I mean, people don't realize how bad California is. And what's funny is Los Angeles isn't the worst. Oh, you go to San Francisco. I won't even go to San Francisco anymore. I've never seen something like that. I mean, you're walking every 3 foot, there's feces on the ground. I'm not exaggerating.
That's so gross.
It's just because the politicians who run that area just don't care. They'd rather be on TV and push this big nationwide agenda they've got going on rather than take care of their own areas. I mean, San Francisco, it's sad. You have to actually go there to understand what I'm saying because until you're walking and every 3 feet you have to step to the side because some person has just gone to the bathroom on the floor. You're like, what is going on here?
That is insane. Because you see it on TV or movies, and they paint it as this beautiful city,
Oh,
which I'm sure there's beautiful things about it, but the way you're explaining it, that does not sound pleasant.
Yeah, there are areas where they do enforce certain areas. Like I think that the police probably kind of shove those people out of some of the touristy areas, but you get into the areas where people live and stuff like that. I mean, you got to understand, this is a city where the mayor decided rather than fighting drugs because it was a losing battle, he designated certain areas of the city where they could go shoot up without being harassed, and that is the truth. I'm not exaggerating. And those are the people that are just walking around defecating on the street and things like that. You find needles and things on the street all the time. So, yeah.
That's. I mean, I know that you can't. Some people just that's what they want to do. You know, you can't fix people that don't want to be. You can't help people that don't want to be helped. You know,
Absolutely.
but helping them in that way is not beneficial to anybody.
No, that's called giving up, is what that is. You know, they have the ability to. You know, if it were me and I was the mayor, I would rule with an iron fist. I really would. I would have those people arrested, and if I got to throw them in jail 15 times until they get the story, I'd just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it until they either got out of town or they got the point. One of the two.
Yeah. Yeah. I know Kansas City did it. It's not terrible compared to what you were saying, but there's still quite a few here. I mean, and Lawrence is pretty open to them, but they're pretty friendly out there. There's a lot of homeless people that just live on the or hang out on the strip, and then at night they have like this little village underneath like a bridge. It's just a bunch of like a little own city. It's impressive, but it's crazy that people can live like that.
I mean, I wonder if that's safe in that area with those. I mean, you know, I don't know what it's like here, but in Los Angeles, you've got three types of homeless people. You've got those who went broke and they can't afford $4,000 a month for rent, and it happens overnight. Imagine how quickly you can be homeless in Los Angeles. There's no waste of time. They kick you out of your place. And then you've got the ones who are drug addicts, and they're homeless because they're just strung out on drugs. And then you've got the ones that are just crazy. And we have a lot of those in Los Angeles. You know, since they shut down all the state hospitals back in the 80s, there's no place to put those people. And I feel sorry for all three groups. But I have always said that if I were to, you know, if I had the kind of money that Gates or even a top rock star had, if I had $50 million in the bank or something like that, my one thing I would do is I would try to create some kind of a board or a platform where we could take these folks, figure out, well, like you said, the ones that want to be fixed, because you can't fix the ones that don't want to be, and a lot of them don't want to be, but the ones that do want to get fixed, a place where they can go in, maybe learn a new job skill, maybe even just give them a job, or maybe build a place where the ones who are respectful and will take care of it will give them a place to sleep. But I'd love to do something to help those folks, because one particular incident sticks out in my mind, and I was in LA, of course, and I was at a Starbucks, and there was this pretty young girl. She really was a pretty young girl, somebody's daughter. And I'm guessing she was about 21, maybe 23 years old, somewhere around there. And she was standing there, and she had a sign, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, is she homeless? So I went up to her, and I just said, I'm just curious. You're out here with the sign. Are you actually homeless? And she goes, yeah, I am. I said, how long have you been homeless? And she goes, it just happened. She goes, I lost my job. She goes, and my apartment was $2,500 a month. She goes, and I lost my job, and I'm in a specialty field. She goes, and I can't find another job. She goes, and she goes, I can't make $2,500 a month working at Starbucks. She goes, how am I supposed to pay my rent? So I said to her, I said, so you're brand new at this? She goes, yeah. And I was worried. I was worried for her because a lot of girls get raped and things like that in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I said, you know, and I told her about an area on the beach where they have really nice facilities like showers and things like that are open 24 hours. And it's in a nicer area of the beach, which you have to get. She was in Venice. You got to get away from Venice. But if you go a little bit north, there's an area where there's no people there. You just have to know it. It's kind of an insider secret. It's where I used to live, actually. And so I remember her saying, but that's like 7 or 8 miles. How am I going to get there? So we actually went to, was it Target? We went to Target or something, and we got her a bicycle. And
oh wow!
This is the proof, though. I mean, she seemed like a totally normal girl. She seemed like she really wanted help. You know, they have a way of convincing you they want help. So I got her this bicycle. You know, it was $100. What's $100? You know, and so I gave her this bike, and I said, look, here's my number. If you have any more problems, let me know, and I'll do what I can. And so so I saw her again a couple days later, standing on the corner, different corner, without the bicycle. And I was like, where's your bicycle? And she goes, oh, one of the homeless guys took it. I was like, wow. But I don't believe that's the truth. I think she sold it. I think she sold it. Some drug money.
That's probably exactly what it was.
Oh well. We try.
Yeah, hey, you can try. Yeah. It's my uncle actually. He owns a carpenter. Or he's a carpenter. He has a he does a lot of the schools in Olathe and Overland Park area. They're shelving and cabinets and stuff. And he's got a shop downtown. And there's a homeless man that lived under the bridge. And real nice guy. Apparently talked to him all the time. He invited him over to his house to have a dinner one night. And he said he was too uncomfortable. He said the guy was in his house for a few minutes looking around. He kept you could tell he was nervous. So he gave him his meal and they took him right back. He didn't want to be there.
Wow, crazy, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's one thing being homeless in Los Angeles. You could do it. You really could, because where I live, the weather was the best weather in the country. So you could do it year round if you needed to. But I don't know how you could do it here with this awful heat you guys have and this humidity. I'm from Florida, and your heat and humidity surprises me. And the other thing is your winter. How do they survive the winter?
Oh, I know. Some of our winters are just like bone chilling.
Oh man, we had -14 last year. That's enough to kill people. You know, it's like, oh
yeah. I've lived in Colorado Springs for about 1 year, and even in blizzard conditions, it could be 20 degrees outside. And you're in shorts and a t-shirt because it just doesn't feel the same. It's not the same at all.
Well, I wonder what that is, but you're right. It must be the humidity level or something. But I am surprised. Like I said yesterday, I decided to do all my yard had gotten out of control a little bit because I'll start this off. I like doing yard work because I never really got to do it that much. I find it's a great way to get some exercise, be outside. I've got my tunes going. I actually really enjoy it. And we have a garden here. I have a huge garden that I've been working on and stuff. I'm loving this lifestyle. And but I'll tell you what, when I walked in the house, I must have looked like death. Because literally I was so drenched in sweat. I don't know if I've ever been that sweaty in my life.
It's bad. I actually did some yard work a couple days ago, and it was probably, I think it was like 105. It might have been last week. What was it, last week or so? 110, something like that, with the heat index.
It is so hot here. I have a little side business that I started last year because COVID shut down. I didn't know when this thing was going to end. And I decided, well, I'm going to need to do something in case music doesn't pick back up. Bills will catch up to me in a year or so. There's no question about it. So I got into high-end drones, and I went to the FAA. I got licensed. I did the whole thing, you know, because since I'm starting this film company, I'm going to be using drones anyway. So I said, well, what can I do that kind of goes with what I do, can make some money? So I got into drone flying. I love flying drones. It's one of my passions. I love it.
That's awesome.
But I've got the good ones. You know, I've got the ones that literally I can program them. I can program them. My drone can go from my house to yours. I just program it. It'll go land on your driveway, and then it'll come home on its own. And but it does things like thermal photography. It does. You know, I'm actually offering my services if I'm not working to like the fire department here and things like that to find out where there are heat spots and fires. And I found that a lot of these apartments have their own drones because they're pretty popular. Yeah. But I found this. One of my neighbors asked me. He goes, "Hey man, I think I might have a hole in my roof. Would you do me a favor and video? You have high-end video, right?" I said, "Oh yeah, I've got 4K video." He goes, "Would you like fly and shoot my roof for me? Because it's really steep roof. I mean, I wouldn't get up there." And I flew his roof for him, and he handed me a couple $100. And I said, no, we're neighbors. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And he goes, no, I want to pay you because this is going to save me a lot of money because he ended up having a hole in his roof. A shingle was missing, and from what he tells me, one shingle missing can cost somebody $20,000 easily because mold gets in. So he goes, no, you just saved me about 10 grand, man. Take the $200. He goes, this is just a thank you. And I was like, so then before I know it, the phone starts ringing, and I'm like, and then I've got this guy on 103rd Street. I got this guy over here on Hemp Street. I've got this guy over here on Elm Street calling saying, hey, you do roof inspections. I said, well, I don't really. But I guess I do. And he goes, yeah, it was a couple $100 or something like that. I said, yeah, it takes about 40 minutes. I said, I guess a couple $100 is good, you know, because I had no clue. So before I knew it, I've got all these people calling me to inspect their roofs on their houses. And now, are you familiar with the closed down Kmart that's there in Gladstone?
Yeah, of course.
There's a big Kmart there. Yeah, you guys know about it? And so I get a call from some contractor. He says, hey, we're getting ready to do something. I don't know what they're doing. He goes, but we need to know the shape of the roof. Well, that place is big.
Yeah.
So he says, how do you charge for this thing? And I went, well, I said, I guess the going rate's a couple $100 an hour. I said, that's kind of what all the other drone pilots do. I said, I'll be honest with you. This is new to me. I'm a good drone pilot, but I'm more in the motion picture industry. I said, but I can do whatever you want. He goes, well, does your drone have thermal? I said, yeah, it does. It has really good thermal camera. I mean, it's amazing. I flew over the woods the other night, and it was in total pitch blackness, and I could see a rabbit running on the forest floor.
That's neat.
It was cool.
That is neat.
That's a rabbit, and you can see it's a rabbit. I mean, it really gets a good picture. And then, so I said, oh, I know it is. This area has got all these deer. So I took it over to this other end. I flew it. You can see a herd of deer down on the forest floor. It's amazing.
That is amazing.
It'll even shoot the soil. I can shoot your front yard. And I don't know how it does it, but I use this program. It will tell me what the health of the soil that I just shot is, if it needs moisture, if it needs drying out, if it needs nutrients. The drone can tell you all of that.
That is impressive.
It's amazing to watch, and you can program it up to, I think it's 500 waypoints, so you can program any kind of flight you want. It does all the work for you.
It makes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It makes you wonder what kind of technology we don't know about.
Yes, it does. Well, I've actually been doing research for that. I'm actually researching kind of hidden technology right now for a project that I'm writing, and I have found some. I found out some things I wish I hadn't found out.
Oh, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I've got one more. Unfortunately, we got to wrap up pretty soon because, like I said, we're going to go to that Auschwitz exhibit down at the Union Station, which I'm pretty excited to go check that out.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah. It actually, we had to book it out 2 months in advance because they were selling like crazy.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Wow, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That is amazing.
All right. Last one. I grew up watching Lion King, so I taught myself how to bear crawl, and I can beat anyone who challenges me.
You know, that would actually be interesting. I would actually challenge him just to see how serious he was. Here's the trick, though. We have to do it through the Legends Mall. And then what I would do is I would get started, and then I'd let him get ahead of me thinking he's winning the race, and then I'd get up and videotape him crawling through all these people.
That's good.
That's hilarious.
Good.
I love that.
I would do it, yeah. Even knowing that I'd suck at it, I would still do it just to do that.
Hey, did you happen to, since you watched the movie, did you happen to notice what's behind me on the wall over here?
Oh, that guitar? Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's the
is that the one that you were playing? The live? What was that place called? Live something?
Oh,
on the movie.
Oh yeah, I forget what it was called. To be honest with you, yeah, I forgot what that place is called too. But that's the guitar from the final scene.
Wow.
When Steve is in the.
How long have you had that?
That guitar is very special to me. I've had that guitar since 2003, I think.
Oh, wow.
And it's the only time in my career where I choose my guitars very carefully. It takes me years to find a guitar because it has to be special. Mm-hmm. And I was in New York City doing a show or something. I forget what's up there. And I walked by this guitar store called Randy's. And I'm very familiar with guitars. That's all I do. And I'd never seen a guitar like that. It's a special model Gibson SG guitar that they only made for a couple of years. It's kind of a collector's item. Mm-hmm. And I walked in Randy's Guitars and I said, "Is that an SG?" And he goes, "It is. It's a special model SG called a SG Supreme." I said, "Wow, I've never seen one like that." I said, "Can I play that?" He goes, "Oh, sure." I took that guitar, I plugged it into an amplifier called a Mesa Boogie amplifier. And I strummed the guitar about 4 times. I turned on the amp and I strummed it like 3 or 4 times. And it sounded and played so incredibly. I've never done this before or since. I handed the guy my credit card. And I said, I have to have this guitar. I said, "Here's what I want, though. I'm going to write the serial number down, but I want that guitar and I want that amplifier, and I want them both sent to my house. Don't send me a different one because that's the one I want." Because they do that sometimes. And I was like, but he said, no, you got no problem, man. We only service pros here, because it is a top New York guitar store. Was, I don't know if they're still there. And so they sent that guitar to my house, and from the second I plugged it in, kind of like my other ones, because my other guitars are the same way. They have a special sound. They play special. There's something unique about them. But that one was the one. And that guitar actually was probably the inspiration for the entire soundtrack for a rock and roll movie.
Wow. All that from one guitar, yeah. I
would strum a chord, and it just sounded so incredible that it would inspire an entire song. You write songs maybe 3 or 4 ways. One of them is called a riff-induced song. It's the sound of your instrument that actually gives you the inspiration for the song, and that guitar is one of those. I bet I've written 30 songs just because of the way that guitar sounds.
That's wonderful. That's impressive.
Speaking of, you'll hear some of those. I have a brand new album that I'm working on right now. It's called Back to the Garage, and it's going to be.
I've actually heard that song. You played it at the end of podcast with I think it was spirituality podcast or something like that.
Oh, I forgot. Did they play a song at the end of that?
You played it at the end of it, yes.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, that's awesome.
I think you played it live.
That is my passion, man. Is writing and recording music. I was in here till 2 a.m. last night just working on a new song that I wrote 30 years ago. And
oh wow,
one of those songs I wrote where I never got to record it the way I wanted to. So I finally said I've got the time now. I'm going to do it, and it's coming out.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I'd love to meet up some. I mean, we're in the city, so I mean, it'd be cool to meet you in person.
You as well. I go to the Costco over on Platte Purchase all the time.
That's the one I work at.
You know what? It's funny you say that. I thought when I saw you, I thought you looked familiar. It must be from there because I'm there 4 days a week.
Really? That's awesome.
I'll look you up. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm the front end cashier supervisor, so I'm sure you'll see me. I'm always in that ridiculous red vest. I hate it.
Hey, that ridiculous red vest is paying your mortgage and paying your and giving you retirement.
I agree. Well, do me a favor and send me whatever information you want for people to look through in the description if they want to click on and find you, because I'd love to, share whatever you want to share with people.
Sure.
Maybe where they can find you to do sessions, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'll definitely. I pretty much send people to darrendowler.com and kcfilmproductions.com. Those are my two main contact points. So I'll definitely text that over to you.
Thank you. So I guess I'll see you in a few days then.
Okay, yeah.
Until next time, though, I do appreciate having you on. I hope you enjoyed it.
I did. Let me know when you're getting ready to launch the show, and I'll put it all over my social media for you.
I'll do that. I imagine probably by the end of today or tomorrow.
Sounds cool, man.
All right. You have a good one, okay?
You too, bro.